right at the gun.
So then 5K, 10K stuff. What are you doing there? Because like we said, that's an intense. There is a mechanical part. Like you got to have those legs warmed up enough to get moving off the start line. It is different. Like I said, I typically have people doing small workouts beforehand, pretty intentional strides. What are you doing there?
For most of my athletes, it's really just an extension of what we would do for like a half. We're gonna do the progression. We're gonna do some drills and some strides. I wouldn't say I recommend having them do like little mini workouts. We just have to get your lungs working, get your legs
Yeah,
moving, so you're not off the gun feeling you're not off the line feeling like you're sprinting right away. So
yeah,
those strides, we're doing them at mile race pace or faster. We want you moving faster than 5K pace. We want a little bit of that, aerobic or threshold stimulus by cranking it up during the warm up, and then spending more time with the dynamic movements. So, spending more time with the stretches, and then doing high knees and butt kicks. And if you do A skips and B skips, let's get a good set of those in. So your hips are opened up and you're ready to be a little more explosive off the line.
I will say generally for us, it's probably we're doing even more strides as we're getting down into 5K in the mile, like where maybe some of those other races might just be 3 to 5 strides. When we get down towards 5K in the mile, it could be 6 to 10 even of like
You're probably
really
doing
making
3 or 4
sure.
with your trainers on. You're doing your drills and you're doing your hip mobility. Then you're putting your spikes on. Then you're doing another 4 or 5 on the track. Yeah. It's a whole little bit of a different ball game.
Yeah. Or your flats if you're on the road. But yeah, it
Yeah.
might be, and then you might notice you need to tie your shoe differently. You might do a couple. And often, I think for us personally, we know, but we also tell people usually you're trying to go until you get a feeling. Like you need 6 or 7 or 8, but as you go, eventually there's like a tension you get with your stride where you're like, okay, this feels right. I feel kind of ready to roll. And so you kind of keep going until you find that point. Sometimes you get out there and after 4 or 5, you're like, whoo, it's system's ready to go. I feel springy. And sometimes you'll kind of stop. You're like, nope, I'm ready. Things are rolling. Sometimes you've done 8 and you're like, I need to like rip a 30-second one because there's still something not turned on here. And so learning and listening and feeling that of like, do I need another hard? Sometimes you just got to rip, like I said, 20 or 30 seconds to just turn the stuff on in the body and wake up.
Yeah,
Um,
especially and that's like with the shorter distances, like the weather plays a more of a role. Because
yeah,
if it's like a warm day, it's way easier to find that like locked in feel. Like a
very
warm day, you
true.
only need 3 or 4 strides. Like your muscles
Right.
are lubed up,
And
everything
same with
feels
the warm
good.
up. You might cut 5-10 minutes. You don't want to overheat.
Sure, especially if it's close to hot, or if you live in a place like Phoenix or somewhere where it gets humid, like you're not going to warm up nearly as long as if you would be doing a 5K in January in New Jersey. Like
Well,
it's a
and
different
also a
ball
pro
game.
tip there, adding to the warm up, like people ask all the time about like, well, should I wear this during the race? And it's like, well, if you can warm up enough to where you don't need that hoodie or whatever it is, it's like, oh, maybe you add an extra mile so your core body temp's up enough so that you can have the apparel choices that you actually want.
Yeah.
Because that can make a big difference too. That's a good tip. And then same thing, we're still probably having that gel, still trying to make sure our systems are all right. I talk all the time about being there early enough so that we can handle all the issues. Um, but yeah, anything else? We
I mean, I think the clothing is a good thing to harp on. Like, have for your warm up, have warm ups. Make sure you're not just like running around in your tank top and your shorts or half tights or whatever. Even if it's a little warm, I think this is partially mental as well as physical too. Like changing from your t-shirt to your singlet, there's something
yes,
about that. Just like changing your shoes, like you're
yes,
flipping a switch in your mind. So I would
yes,
also, and for cold days, like overdress. You don't want to be standing around shivering, or
yes,
jogging around shivering. Like you'd rather be overdressed and sweat through your hoodie in your warm up
yes.
than be underdressed and still cold when you finish it. So just making sure you're dressing appropriately and taking that into account is really important.
Yeah, dude, that's so smart. I remember like in middle school, our track coaches were like very adamant that like we needed to have a sweat going before you like started things, which makes sense in some ways. That's huge using your clothes strategically. Like I think it's why people wear suits. Like when you dress that way, you act a different way. And then like you said, with like weather and stuff, like use warm-ups to your advantage. Let those extra layers help you actually physically warm up. And that's really smart. Man, I think that's pretty good. I don't know if I have anything else on warming up. Yeah, I mean, we have talked a lot about that, and that is a thing that we try to push on people, is like switching the shoes and the clothes. Like, it's something people fight back on sometimes about shoe changes, but there is a real big mental thing of like, oh, when I put these on, that's when I go to race. That's when I'm like really working. So I do love that one a lot. Yeah, cool. Any last thoughts on warming up?
No, I think we covered it. I think we did a good job at going down the lines. I mean, and